Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, March 18th today, and we are Reseller Revenue Facebook and Patreon group, and we're going to talk about whether we cherry pick or buy in lots and the pros and cons of both, because there's no right or wrong answer with that. It just is what it is, so it's however you feel about it. First off, anybody have any questions? Do we have anything that's happened overnight? Do we have any issues, questions, thoughts, concerns? Anything good? Nicole.
How,
Thank you.
There you go.
So I had and I'm not saying this to brag by any means, but I got my first return. Like, I don't get returns. So the reasoning that they're saying is because they ordered it by mistake. And then they also put a comment like it wouldn't get here in time. So my question is, I wait until they send me the item back. And if they don't send me the item back, I don't give them a refund. Correct?
So you already sent it, right?
Yeah, they got
Yeah.
it, and then they opened a return. Their reasoning is ordered by mistake, and then they said wouldn't get here or it didn't get here in
Yep. If you
time.
don't get it back, don't refund. It'll just close on its own.
It will. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Devin.
oh, since you asked anything good that happened, so last night, so I operate off the week of Tuesday through Monday because that's when we get paid on Tuesdays, and even everything shut down for a day, and going into Saturday with only $833 in sales, I finished the week last night just over 1,600. So I was
Your week?
very pleasantly
Okay.
surprised.
Your week?
Yeah, I
The
finished
week
my
or the
week at
weekend?
six. No, I
Awesome.
finished my week at 1,600. I always want to
Awesome.
hit 1,500 for the week, but
Very
I was
good.
sweating bullets starting Saturday at only 830, and I always want to be at that $1,000 mark going into the
Yep.
weekend.
Excellent. That's awesome. And it's good to have those benchmarks because I think that's made a big difference to me when I started having those benchmarks that like I do mine on payouts instead of gross sales. But I like my payout to be a certain amount. And it's just good to have that. Like there's nothing we can really do to control it most of the time, but it is good to have the payout or the gross sales amount in your head. Just gives you a kind of a what to work for.
Yep.
Your little buddy's here snoring, Suzanne. She's snoring
It's
away up
about
here.
time. She's had enough of
Shipping?
those bah
Yeah.
that with mommy because she's
She's
afraid something else will crawl up there.
Yeah, well, she got rolled by a ewe the other day.
Uh-oh.
She barked at a lamb and the ewe just took her right out. I was like, don't be barking at the lambs there, Molly. The mamas don't like it. We have there's no less than 75 of them that are just, I can't believe they're still pregnant. Like they're just, and one of them is so huge. I'm gonna go out and try to take pictures of her today. I don't know how many she has, but she's huge. And it doesn't it takes a lot to impress me with a sheep like that. But she's big, she's huge. They get where they get stuck in the barn doors when they get so pregnant they can't get through the openings. Anybody else have any questions, thoughts, opinions? Jed did the shipping again last night. I'm telling you, there's something to this whole deal. I'm like, boy, this could work out really good.
He's after something.
Well, he likes to feel useful, and he likes to feel useful for stuff with me. So if I give him lots of good boys, then just like him bringing me a coffee every time he goes to town, that's his way of being nice. So if he can show me love by shipping and bringing me fancy coffees, I am all for it. I'd rather have that than sweet nothings and flowers any day. So
Well, has he vaguely hinted, like, is he in the need for like a new vehicle or anything like that?
if he did, he'd just go buy one.
Okay.
Did he have any complaints or any issues when he was doing, is this the first time he's doing your shipments?
This weekend was so his very first day that he was learning, and it was so he can get ready for us to be gone. He had 80 some to package. I felt bad for him a little, not really, but some kind of. So
But he didn't have any complaints, no issues. He didn't have any trouble finding
Didn't have any,
anything.
nope, he didn't have any trouble. And because I mean, realistically, my inventory system's so easy that you just thumb through, pull, put it in a box, you know. His only issue he had was like trying to figure out when he needed a bigger box type of thing, but it was fine. Oh, and he did get one stuck on his beard and had to throw it away. So we had that issue. He was rolling it up like this and it got stuck in his beard and he had to like rip it off and it was a little traumatic for him, but
The shipping label.
the envelope, he ripped the thing off and it like attacked his beard. He had to like rip it off. And but besides that, everything went really well. And he didn't have any hiccups. And he just went down the pick list and went down the labels and the labels on the 80 some didn't print in order. So he had it even a little harder than usual because usually they're in order, but sometimes they go rogue and they're not. So
Oh, I would be scared to let my husband ship the jewelry because I think he would send like, you know, the wrong, like swap, you know, like if you have two door knocker earrings gold toned, I don't think the right people would get the right
well, he
earring
doesn't have to even look at it because he's only looking at the number.
number.
Yep. So he is
So,
checking vaguely, you know, but you just got the number and you only pull one at a time. You put the number, match it to the name, throw it in the box.
some husbands are trainable, huh?
Oh yeah, and he really is. You just don't, people need to not try to change guys, in my opinion. So I feel like I know my husband is never going to be one that just wants to tell me how wonderful and pretty I am all day. Like he's just, you know, he's an old farm boy. That's just not his way. Um, but he always says, if I eat your food, it's the same thing as me telling you how great it is. If he asks me what's in it, that's the same thing as him saying, don't ever make this again because it's horrible. So if he uses those code words, what's in this, that means this is awful. Don't do it again. Um, but and he if he goes to town and like the worst thing you can ask him to do is go to the wrong end of town or somewhere he doesn't have to go. So if he goes out of his way to get me a coffee, that's like him saying how much I care about you because I went out of my way and I sat at a drive-through, even though I hate drive-throughs, and I spent my money that's all moldy on a $7 coffee. So that's the same thing as him saying, hey, I love you and I appreciate you. So you have to take them for what they mean. And when he comes in from a hard work all day, you know, he's been at work for 10, 12 hours and then works at home, and then we'll sit in a chair and clean jewelry or untangle jewelry or package jewelry. That's the same thing as telling me how amazing I am and how happy he is to be married to me. So I just have to take it for what he is, not try to make him into something he never was. I think that's a man code thing. So we've been together for 30 years. Yeah. Nicole.
That's so great. Going back to your inventory system, what do you recommend, Carrie? Because I'm still in the process of niching down, and I finally figured out my plan to liquidate all the hard goods that I don't want to ship. But I am wondering so the way my inventory system works is I have these little drawers and like brooches A, brooches B, brooches C, but each individual brooch in brooches A it doesn't have a SKU. So if I ever needed somebody to, so what do you recommend? Like, I don't even know where to start. Like, do I go back and do
I
all
didn't go backwards, but I wish I would have now.
you do?
So I started the middle of August with my new system, and I really wish I had gone backwards when I started because now it seems like, oh, what's the point? Because it's coming here in mid-August, I'll be all caught up. But for
How
Jed,
many,
those few months are going to be that I don't have SKUs on everything individually is going to be a little.
so you still have inventory that's not in your new SKU system?
Yep. Till mid-August. Yeah.
Wow.
Of last year.
So when you changed to your new inventory system, how many listings did you have still in the old one?
A lot. I
More
just had
than
it.
like
You
200?
probably, yeah. And so
So
I wish I would have gone back. I wish I would have just bit the bullet, done the
redid the whole
inventory,
thing.
and went back because now I run into problems every once in a while, and it's always those ones I didn't do. It's always those. They're just biting me in the butt every once in a while, and I really wish I would have just fixed it.
Do you think that I should keep the drawers like brooches A, but then just put a SKU number
I would
on
do
it?
exactly what me and Lynn do. I think
Okay.
me and Lynn's and Catherine And I think Meg too, all of us have the exact same jewelry system. We have
Okay,
the exact
where
same
can I
inventory system.
where can I find that? Do you have a video on that or?
Yeah, and when Lynn's in here for the jewelry call, usually it's right behind her, so she could probably show you, but I think we all have the exact same system.
Okay.
And
Okay,
it's
cool.
it's pretty hard to screw it up.
Okay,
So I think it's
cool.
yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think it's good. Yep. All right. Anybody else? Yep, nope. And he actually has started moving mine into the new. So I've had the new system for a while, but now I'm putting in them. I didn't have them in the long boxes yet because I didn't have them. I didn't have the racks up for him or whatever. And Jed's been putting them in the long boxes and putting them in order and all that stuff. So, that's been helpful too. And like anybody can do that. If you can count and order, somebody can help you do that. So, um, I really feel like we can get some help if we need it. I've been really hesitant to get helping with shipping because you can really screw it up. Like it's not you can have a mistake type of thing. But so like Rowdy, when I had him help once, he just got sick of it and just decided, well, I think she'll like this necklace and just sent, it was terrible. Like it was a couple years ago, but he was like, I was over it and I just like found him something pretty. And I'm like, what the hell, Rowdy? So I've been a little that kind of burnt me on having help with shipping. So but we're okay now, I think. And Jed's really meticulous. Like Jed's very, very, very meticulous. Yeah, that was horrible, Meg. It was awful. It was really bad. Like all of them were like that. Like people started messaging me and I'm like, what is happening? He's like, yeah, I got sick of shipping that day. I was just like, oh, this one's pretty. Just he's like, why are they complaining? It was a necklace. I'm like, terrible. So yeah. But Jed's very meticulous. So and he has to live with me. Like he doesn't want to have to listen to that when he screws something up. So nobody wants to deal with that. So on the subject of cherry picking or lots, anybody that's been here a long time knows I've gone back and forth on this subject for how I feel, for myself and my business. And so there are no right or wrong answers. It's just whatever you find for your own business. I found when I was cherry picking, and I still will once in a while, like there's a couple sellers on some platforms that they'll put up some really high-end jewelry that must just be their own, and it's pretty cheap. I mean, like when I say cheap, I mean, so when I cherry pick, it costs me money. Like, when I'm cherry picking like 20, 30, $40 items, right? To me, that's cherry picking. And I thought that that was going to be a new business model for me about a year ago. I thought, why am I dealing with this lot stuff when I can just cherry pick the really good stuff that has a good profit margin and make more money, right? And then I almost went broke. So that was a bad deal. Because these higher end items, a lot of them, they don't move very fast. And so my cash flow wasn't very good. I had a bunch of money tied up and stuff that wasn't moving quickly. And then if I got offers, sales, any of those good things that we do on eBay, boy, it really hit when it was, $50, $60 items that I had tied up. So I kind of backed off cherry picking. Cherry picking is good in the fact that you don't have a lot of crap to deal with. You just get your item in, you list it. Cherry picking 225 items a week, difficult for me. It's hard for me to pull that many items not cherry picking sometimes. So the bigger you get, the harder I think cherry picking gets. If I was in clothing, I would cherry pick everything because there's just so much clothing out there. Like I can travel around, I can go to different places, there's clothes everywhere. I would cherry pick completely shoes, clothing. I would never, ever, ever buy in bulk unless it was like an estate deal, maybe for vintage. I could see that. I could do a closet clean out or something on it on an estate. But cherry picking on jewelry, cherry picking on higher end items, I feel like sometimes it gets super expensive. So I pretty much buy in lots. And whenever I start cherry picking again, I realize and I remember why I buy in lots. However, you need to be really good in your category, whatever niche that is, to make buying in lots work. So I see a lot of people they buy lots that they don't really know what's in it because they're hoping they're going to get lucky. And while sometimes it's like Larry's had some good lucks with his lots. And
I've also had some bad luck with my lots.
so like sometimes you do, sometimes you get really lucky. So I would never sit here and tell you that it's always bad if you just blindly buy one, right? It's not always bad. Boy, it can be bad. And then not only do you not have the inventory you need, but then you start trying to force things into your store because you paid a bunch of money for a lot that now isn't any good. So you're trying to recoup your money, and now you're spending time processing, and now you're spending time forcing things in our store that shouldn't be there. And so I'm not saying it's wrong no matter which way you do it, but I know that when I buy in lots, I have more money. And it's because my lots could be anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000, right? It depends, but I'm making calculated decisions on my lots. I'm not blindly buying lots. So that's how I've grown, because I used to buy Goodwill boxes. Did I find gold in there sometimes? Sometimes I did. Sometimes I found some amazing stuff in there. Sometimes it was box after box after box of crap. And that's just not something I want to do anymore. So now I don't buy things like that. But I did, did I make money at them? Yeah, I probably did still make money at them, but boy, it took a lot of time and I ended up with hoards that I don't want. Meg.
Hey, I'm driving and about to like pass up cows, so I feel like the signal might go out up here, but in case it does, let me know. What was I? Oh, so obviously, so I do clothing and jewelry, and with the jewelry, I think with the lots, like I could think of it more of it still cherry picking for me at least, because I'll buy kind of like smaller lots, or even if it is bigger lots, like I'm looking at what's in it, and I'm basically buying it for those few things that are in the lot, and then the extra, everything else is just extra, either to go into small lots or to go into like a junk lot, and that's just like extra money on top of it. And best case scenario, the junk lot pays for the whole lot.
Yep, and that's totally right. Meg is completely correct. If you're processing them correctly and you're not hoarding them. It's when people are buying lots all the time and they end up with boxes full of it sitting in the corner that's costing you money, and you're not processing it because you really don't want to deal with it, or you cherry pick the good stuff out and you pile up the rest. That's not a great business model. Mimi.
I was gonna, when you mentioned the Goodwill, I think you said, there was a time when I was getting the blue boxes, I think they were called, on Fridays.
Yeah, I've never
Oh,
gotten one of
God.
those.
Complete trash. But then I got one, maybe out of 20, that was like, oh my God, it was like everything I pulled out, almost everything was amazing. Gold, sterling, Mexico, Mexican silver bangles and everything. But I think I got that box by mistake. Like, I think maybe it was supposed to go to one of their stores or something. I don't know. But like Larry had mentioned, like he's purchased a lot of bad lots. For me, like now I look at all of the bad lots that I purchased, not like those blind boxes, but like from other auction sites or whatever. It taught me how to scan, right? So like now I don't just buy whatever. Like I've gotten better at figuring out if it's worth buying or not. Even though I've been on a buying freeze, but I still have been looking. I haven't purchased anything for over like a month now, so I think I'm doing good. I'm trying to get through what I already have. But yeah, so I learned a lot, like since being with you guys. Like I'm not buying a lot just because I see one item that might be, a Napier necklace, because it doesn't make sense to buy a $200 lot to get one $30 necklace and chance
Right.
it on the rest. So that's all I wanted.
It's part of a learning curve, right? I mean, there's definitely a learning curve. And when I went away from like, okay, I know what I'm doing now, so I'm going to cherry pick stuff based on my knowledge. And why would I buy lots when I can cherry pick and only get expensive good stuff? That was my thought behind that. It just didn't work for me because of cash flow. It screwed my cash flow big time, and I was like seriously broke. But and I can't get my cost of goods down to $3 to $5 buying individually very easily, right? And that's part of my business model. Doesn't mean it's the right way, wrong way. It's just what I do. So buying lots strategically is also pretty much in my plan. Catherine.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
First of all, my internet's been going in and out all morning, so if I drop out, that's what happened. Second of all, I It's funny, every time you talk about cherry picking, that's my store name is Cherry
Yeah,
Picket.
I was thinking of that too.
And, but anyway, I also do clothing and jewelry, and I'm getting better at cherry picking the jewelry because I just have more knowledge and am doing more research. But for clothing, because I only go to the cities once a month, I can't cherry pick because I'm not going to the bins every day or every other day or once a week because it's 3.5, 4 hours away. So I have to get some bread and butter items for clothing, and I have to get, hopefully get some cherry picked items. I just got back from the cities, and I will never go to the bins again on a weekend because I went Friday night, went to the bins right away on Saturday. Well, the bins don't open till 10 on Saturday in Minneapolis or Minneapolis area on Saturday and Sunday, whereas the weekdays they open at 8. So I'm already 2 hours short of sourcing. And then on Saturday, the manager didn't show up. So we stood outside for 45 minutes before they opened. So it was 10:45. And I discovered that on the weekends, they only bring out bins with the Goodwill tags on them. So it's not like donations that have come in. So it's just boatload after boatload of junk. Like you can hardly find anything. I usually walk out of there with 2 or 3 IKEA bags full on a given day. And I had 2.5 IKEA bags for Saturday and Sunday total. So I stayed for Monday and got 3 bags on Monday of IKEA stuff. Not of IKEA stuff, of clothing in IKEA bags. So I learned that I have to do my sourcing during the weekdays because the Fargo thrift shops are so high priced. So for me, I can't cherry pick the clothing items as much as I want to, but I can with the jewelry because I'm doing it online. So I have more time to kind of look through things than I do when I'm buying clothing. So
I think I was just gonna say exactly what Meg typed. Gotta be real careful about like, well, I pick up these bread and butter items. Like, what's your definition of bread and butter?
well, I look for items that I can sell for $20 to $25. I consider bread and butter.
That's what you're
My
gonna price them at.
yes.
So that means you're gonna end up with like $6.
Well, it'll probably be a little bit more than that because it's bin pricing. So my cost of goods is really low. So it's more like,
I would leave those there.
but then I don't have enough clothing items to list. I know this is the dilemma. I don't have enough clothing items to list. So I would have to find more jewelry to list or spend a lot more money on clothing items and spend a lot more time
I would rather see you lower your listing goal than put a bunch of crap in there.
listing more what? Say it again.
I would rather see you list way less items a day than put a bunch of stuff like that in there.
But I don't know if that would be enough money coming in.
Or you just got to look more places and look better and maybe pay up, but only buy really good things.
But see, to me, that's so much more time. And it's more time and more money to go to the thrift stores in the Fargo area than to go to the bands for 2-3 days once a month. So that's my dilemma. Which one is a better model?
Not putting $20 stuff in your store.
They sell
Unless
though.
it's moving fast. Unless it's moving really fast. Like they're really good brands and you're flipping them over fast, not if you're having to hang on to them for 6 months.
Right.
Then that's not a good business model because you've already sipped the profit out of it. You didn't leave yourself enough. They got to turn fast. If I'm putting a $20 item in my store, I expect it to be gone immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just yeah, and it's different for everybody, you know. If that's just like what you like, but I mean, I think you've got the knowledge to do better.
Oh, I do. I know how to cherry pick items. I just because my model was to do 10 clothing items a day, 10 jewelry items a day. recently I've thought about increasing that. Instead of a 20 items a day, I want to see if I can do 27 items a day and schedule the 7 items each day for Friday so I can take a day off because summer's coming. We're going to be gone on the weekends. I don't want to have to list a bunch of stuff on the weekends when I'm with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like a day off before we leave for the weekend to clean, paint, do other things.
You already take the
So
weekends off, Saturday and Sunday?
in the summer, I do. The rest of the time, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We could plan around, we plan around our life. That's what we do. I try to do it so that I have one day a week if I choose to, that if I go to the flea market, thrift store, or whatever, that I don't have, well, I still list. I just have all my photos done.
Right. I would
But I
just have
still,
them scheduled, so I just
yep, and that's smart.
plug them
Yep.
in. But then if I go to 27 a day, I need even more clothes or more jewelry.
Well, it'll equal out during the week, right? It'll still be the same
Right.
number. Yep. Larry.
Yeah, I got a couple of comments. So
I'd love to hear them.
I've kind of settled in on buying in lots for a couple of reasons. One is I do live in Houston. I have access to a lot of inventory and a variety of places. People are selling stuff on Facebook all the time. But a lot of these things, by the time, all is said and done, I don't want to be driving 150 miles round trip to get, $100, $200 worth of inventory or, 4 to 10 pieces or whatever. So I'm pursuing the bigger purchases. I ran across a lady on Facebook. She's got, as she says it, she's got floor to ceiling 27 large totes filled with jewelry that she's been collecting since the 70s. And what she's shown me so far, for the most part, has been amazing. The first purchase I made had 2 stuffed to the gills large sandwich bags filled with signed earrings. Nice, good stuff from the 50s and 70s. A lot of Coro, a lot of Trefanis, etc. And she was very, very reasonable on the price. So it's like, okay, cool. I rounded up a couple of times. She was really pleased with that. The second purchase, though, she went through and I basically told her I want brooches and I wanted more of these signed earrings. And she came back and she said, well, I've got about 250 items. I want $700 for it. It's like, okay, cool. And then when I the day before, she said, yeah, it's up to like 350 now. I did include some beads. And I'm like, oh God, I told her I don't want beaded stuff because that's just garbage. Anyway, I get there, open it up, and right on top is a bag filled with really nice brooches. And right underneath that is a bag with more really nice signed earrings. And I'm kind of weeding through, and yeah, there's a bag of beads, but they're the really nice, ABs from the 60s or 70s or whatever, and a few nice earrings in there. So I'm weighing them, kind of going, okay, fine, $700, sure. I give her 720, rounded, again, I'm buying her favor. I get this stuff home, and it's really there was 65 sellable individual items. And it's a strategy I'll mention here in a second. I got about another 65 small batches, 4 things that are all blue, 4 things that are all, giraffes, whatever it is. And so I got about 120, maybe 150 sellable items for $700. It's like, ugh, that's like 650,
They're all
$7.
really good. That's okay.
Yeah, but I mean, some of them are 4 giraffe brooches that are unsigned. There's one of them is just plasticky crap, whatever. And a few of those are a bag of 10 plastic beads, beaded, necklaces that I'm not going to be real excited about listing because I'm only going to be listing them for, $19 or $29 or whatever. So anyway, the reason, my rationale there was I want to keep in good graces with this lady because she's mentioning that she's got tons of gold. She's mentioning she's got tons of silver. And one little bitty gold piece snuck through with this last batch it's only worth about $30. But so anyway, this next purchase I make, I'm sitting on too much inventory now, so I'm not going to talk to her for a few weeks. But as far as cherry picking, what I did here was, as I'm noticing, I'm getting into jewelry and I'm starting to see these piles of the crap. It's like, okay, so I've come up with 3 different classes of items. One is the nice listable stuff, the $30 and above, no problem listed by itself. The nice but unlistable as itself, lot them together in 4 to 10 pieces. And then everything else as wearable, you know, I was gonna do a junk and then wearable, but anyway, I'll figure out that bottom end here in a second. But anyway, so that's kind of how I'm processing this stuff. And I'm trying to mix it in, or at least I just started this, this weekend or 4 days ago or so. But I'm trying to, I've created a box for myself that is my photography ready to photograph list. And I pretty much list in the order that I photograph. But I'm trying to mix those in and around. So I have a lot of this, a couple of nice brooches there, a signed pair of earrings, 4 pair of earrings that are batched together, whatever. I'm trying to mix it up. So I'm not deliberately cherry picking. And we'll see how it goes. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to the
Remember,
next.
when you start putting stuff in that hole, it can be sold as a lot thing. It starts reproducing, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden it'll take over your workspace full of. And then we start telling ourselves, well, we can make these 4 little giraffe brooches, which we can. But if for me anymore, just out of experience, because I've done this, I've done lots of those lot piles, is by the time I shuffle them around, and by the time if they don't come in the same lot where I'm actively sorting them right now, I'm not making any more. I'll find something to lot this with piles. They've ate me alive over the years.
Yeah.
I end up shuffling them around. I touch them more than once. I don't want to touch anything more than once ever again. The time suck for me. And then I
Yeah,
end
that
up
was
with
going to be my
piles
question to
everywhere.
you is how do you avoid touching this stuff multiple times?
I have, when I'm processing a lot, like an auction lot or whatever, I will make small batches in that lot. So I will do that sometimes of earrings or whatever. And I will do that. But everything else just goes in a box. And that was the best decision I ever made, because by the time I started sorting out how much I would make, and the time I was spending trying to sell this stuff I shouldn't have bought in the first place, really, I was still getting $5 to $10 a pound out of it for junk.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and I just find that there's this little happy place that you get to where you finally have enough money to buy some really good items and cherry pick and still pay your bills. They can be great items, and it's okay if it takes them a little longer to sell because they're so great items, because you're okay financially to do that. And but you have to have money to source those items. You have to have the time to source those items. And it's like you said with when you first decided, Carrie, I'm just going to look for those high-end items and just sell those. And then you're like, oh my God, they're sitting there a long time and I need that money, to pay bills. And you finally get to a happy place where you can do both. And I'm not to the happy place yet. And I think that's why I pick up, some of the items that I do, is because I still need to get the bills paid.
When I quit picking up stuff that I was like excusing as bread and butter, that's when I started making enough money to do it the right way.
And so, but you weren't listing a smaller number of items, were you?
No, but I bust my ass looking for my inventory.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of this job. And I know you don't love it, and I know it sounds kind of rough, but you don't have any little kids around or anything. Like, there's no reason you can't be busting your hump looking for more inventory.
Yeah.
That's our job. And our job is to find the best stuff we can all the time. And I don't love it. I'm not like you guys. I don't love shopping for jewelry. I don't love it. Right. But I spend hours a week doing it, or I would never find the stuff I do.
Yeah.
Hours and hours. I spend more time sourcing than I do any other part of my business. And that's exactly what Tex always said too, is if you want to run a really profitable eBay business, you will spend more time sourcing than anything else. So while it's easier for you to do it the way you do it, it's probably not the healthiest way. You're not giving yourself enough opportunities to hit home runs.
For the clothing.
You're not giving yourself those opportunities because you're only giving yourself that opportunity once a month or whatever. Like, and it's hard. Like, we've got to be uncomfortable a little bit. Like, this isn't really supposed to be comfortable. It depends on what level you're doing it. If you're retired, if this is a part-time gig, totally different. If we really got to depend on an income, it's not supposed to be real comfortable,
Right.
and it's not. And I agree with Meg what she said about the earrings. Lots of earrings don't sell for more than 20 bucks at the end of the day. The Julianas do. Even the Tafaris don't anymore, unless they're really special, you know. So you got to be real careful with the earrings. I agree with that completely. A mix is best. I agree with that. But her bread and butter is she still thinks it'll still sell in 3 months. And so she has the cash flow to pay for more. I agree with that. And where I got into trouble with is like on auctions and stuff. I was cherry picking like brooches. Well, and for one, that's my big downfall. I like brooches. I know a lot about them. I like them. But you know what? Their sell-through rate kind of sucks, right? So I had to really stop picking up so many of them because I like them. Like, I like them. That's what I like to list. But you know what? Their sell-through rate isn't great because I mean, people do wear brooches, but I mean, they wear bracelets a lot more. The sell-through rate on bracelets is great, right? But brooches, not so much, right? So I had to take my own advice and kind of make sure I'm picking up things that sell, not just things I like to list. And I like to list brooches. And I also like to list clip-on earrings, but they don't always sell very well either. So I was cherry picking things on like auction lots, right? On online auctions. And I'd find something and I think, okay, now it's up to $10. I could sell it for 30. That's still okay. And but it's not okay. If you do the math on that, especially by the time you pay a buyer's premium and shipping on it, it's not okay. Doesn't work. That's what my mindset was at the time. Like, but it's really good. And then I'll have this really good thing in my store. And 10 into 30 is okay. 10 into 30 is not. It doesn't really work. And then it really wasn't 10 into 30 because then I had buyer's premium and shipping on it. But I'd kind of lie to myself a little bit on that. Like, well, I can absorb it over the cost of everything. But if you're not actually doing the math, and then you do the math on 10 into 30, it doesn't
I do make
work
sure to always
appropriately.
add that in.
Yeah. So I quit cherry picking on online auctions because also by the time I calculated in the uh-ohs I got, like the broken things, the bad rhinestones, whatever. I mean, I had an array of things that would happen to me. It wasn't good. They weren't good anymore, right? So the things that I would get that were good weren't making up for the things that weren't good. So I rarely bid on online auctions anymore, at least for jewelry. I do for some other things, but I rarely do when they're individual. I will if there's flats of them, but I don't individually anymore. I just couldn't get it to pencil out. When I started doing it item by item, penciling it out with the eBay fee calculator, this wasn't working for me anymore. And but it's really competitive anymore. I used to be able to get tons of stuff for $1 a piece. That doesn't happen anymore, ever. Meg.
So yeah, I was just gonna ask. So I obviously use like the eBay fee calculator and everything, but like for you, like so let's say you paid $20 for like one piece, like what would you want to sell it for to make that worth it? Let's say it's gonna sit longer. Because like I'm
100.
going right now to a place where it's like everything's cheap, but she's finally gonna sort through like more of the vintage stuff. And like I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, hypothetically, let's say this one thing I saw last week was like 20 bucks. Like what would I want it to sell for
Just
to make it
because I
worth it
need
to spend
something,
up?
just because I need something in my head that like is easy for me to figure out. If I can't sell it for at least 100, I'm not paying 20.
Okay, okay,
I think I just get that 100. Once it hits 20 bucks, I better be looking at over 100 bucks.
okay, okay.
But
There
that's
are these
me.
closeted fish thingies. I can't remember if they were like pendants or necklaces. So I feel like that could be 100. So that might be like the only thing. But okay.
Cloisonne is rough. Just saying.
But
Because
they were
real
like cool
cloisonne,
fish. They were fish though. I don't know. They were cool. But I wouldn't do that with everything else like $2. So it evens out. Like that would be
right?
like
And
the
it
only.
does. Yeah, you're right. You're right. We got to think of things on average. You know, sometimes I will pick up for a little bit of something if the rest of it's cheap and good. You know, I think it's easy to fall into. Not you, Meg. It just came into my head was, um, I think when we start finding things cheap, it's easy to
Yeah.
overbuy,
Yeah,
or it's
even last week.
easy.
So I'm going to the same place I went last week, and I expected going there. I didn't know the prices. I just kind of took the chance, and I expected the prices to be higher. It actually made it more like decision paralysis, and like then it was like I bought some things that I shouldn't have because it was too cheap, and I didn't want to like waste the time of driving out there. I guess partially in my head, and a part of me was like, oh, it's only $2. Let me try it out. Maybe it will sell. I don't know why I did that. It was stupid.
You're the queen of not doing that. You're way better at that than I am. Meg's pretty disciplined. But I think we get into, I used to fall into the trap of, if I walked into a flea market and there was tables full of brooches in front of me and they were all $3, well, I'd buy a whole bunch of them because that's really cheap, right? It wasn't cheap after I listed them and they were there forever and I sold them for $10. Like it just, I would fall into the cheap trap. Or if they're $2, I would start picking up things that I really shouldn't because they were cheap. Or if I buy a big lot of stuff, now I'm making all these damn lots that I shouldn't be making because I bought this lot that wasn't any good, right? So I'm getting better at cutting my losses. Getting much better at cutting my losses. Like with that big huge brooch lot I bought on eBay, there were so many of them that just weren't good. And I just literally took out the, top ones and the rest because they weren't good, even to make little lots of. I just didn't want to waste my time. Mimi, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Catherine, does she ever source at estate sales?
I do, but the ones that are local, there aren't a lot of high-end jewelry
No, I
people
meant
in
for the
Fargo.
clothes.
With clothes.
Yeah.
I have, but again, they price high. Like there were, you know, it's like $8 or $9 per piece versus
How about Facebook Marketplace?
I look on there too.
Yep, it's
But it's not, I'm not, what I find at the bins, like I found a Laurel Piana cashmere men's coat.
Oh,
Great. I'm not going to find that in Fargo. No estate sale, no thrift store is going to have that.
You're not gonna
And
find 15 of them a day at the bins either.
no, I'm not.
And if you never go, then you don't know either.
Right. But what I do know is that I'm going to find some of those higher dollar items near the cities
Oh, I
versus,
think you should definitely keep doing that. I think you're
yeah.
just not doing enough in between. I think you're not giving yourself enough opportunities. And I mean, do you think I love getting in the car and driving 2-3 hours to Cedar Rapids to go to a community garage sale that might have nothing? No. Yeah, that's right, Meg. We got to do it.
Yeah.
That's what our job is. So if we start getting too cushy and just sourcing from the computer, or like I was just basically doing all online, that's how I prefer it. I don't really like going out, right? But if I hadn't gone to community garage sales and stuff, I never would have found that huge lot that had Shriners in it. And those were business changing opportunities at garage sales. And I don't like making myself leave the house and do it. And I'll have to drive 2-3 hours to get to any of these cities. And I'm doing
And
it once a week
I'm
and I'm
dying
making
for
myself.
I'm dying for the garage sale season to start.
Yeah.
It's short here, but it's, I need it to start.
Yep. So once a week, I will make myself go somewhere. That's what I'm doing at flea market, garage sales, antique malls. I'm making myself once a week because all the big, huge opportunities I found were ones I didn't know I was even gonna, I had no idea I was gonna trip on them that day. And it was only because I was giving myself the opportunities to find them. That's the
Yep.
only reason I ever got them. And some days do I go out and I drive 2 hours each direction and I find nothing? Absolutely.
Yep.
But that's part of our job. It's just part of the deal. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. I don't like it. I mean, I live in a rural area too, and right here
Mhm.
things are too expensive or they're just not there. So I have to go where they are. And unfortunately, I go to see the Quad Cities or I go, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City. They're all hours away from me, but I have to just pick a location and I make a day of it. And just like community garage sales, I like to do those because there's so many in one area that I map out the antique malls, I map out the thrift, and I just pick that area and I just do it all that day. I also make phone calls to the state sale companies in those areas. I'll call the people in Cedar Rapids, I'll call whatever and say, hey, you got any jewelry laying around you want me to come look at? And lots of times those things are never hitting the sales. I know that they never hit the sales from the one guy because I'm toting them out of there once a month. Right? So at first when I started calling that guy, he had a person. This person died. So, you never know. Like people move, people die, people get overstocked, people are hoarders, whatever. You got to be in line for the next big opportunity. So, and I get told no a lot, right? I mean, I get told no a lot. So, yeah, it's just kind of, I don't love sourcing. It's not really my thing, but it is what it is. Nicole.
Do you think it's a numbers game? Like, so I've worked in sales all my life, and it used to be where I had a mentor, boss, coach, whatever, who would tell me like you have to turn over 100 oysters to find that one pearl. But that was me selling them something. Do you think it's like the same for us? Like, because I feel like every time I try to source outside of online, like Facebook Marketplace, I'm always a minute too late, or I never get there before the other guy. Um, do you think it's the same? Like,
No,
because
I
I feel
think you're
like
gonna
I'm
turn over
striking out.
1,000 of them.
Okay,
I think if
so
you were only turned over 100, you'd be pretty lucky. But I turn over 1,000 bad ones. Like, yeah, I'm a minute too late all the time too, but that just means I gotta do more often. Yeah,
okay.
Meg says 1,000 hangers to one piece of clothing is what Tech always says. Yep.
Ah,
You'll
okay.
turn 1,000 pieces before you find a really good one. And that's where it becomes hard. But that's also what separates people that are grossing, full-time 20,000, 30,000 versus people that are grossing, a couple 100,000.
Okay, good to
Yeah.
know. Thank you.
It's always a
And
numbers
Meg,
game. That's right.
Do you do half clothing listings, half jewelry listings, or do you do more of one or the other?
For a while there, I was doing more jewelry. Then, the last few months have been clothing, but now it's back into more jewelry. It's kind of like whichever I happen to find more of, but I try to keep both going. And I was actually really proud of myself, even though I had a few days of inventory, which is a lot for me to even have. I actually went out and went to the thrift store and I got some clothing yesterday. And I was like, yay, look at me go! Like trying to keep like two days ahead for one. So
You know what the
yeah.
difference with Meg is? Like, a difference, like, I find that she's a little different, is every single piece of clothing she brings home are usually home runs. And then the next day or the day after, she's showing me how it's sold. Because she's not guessing. She's not saying, well, hopefully this bread and butter will hit me. She knows because
Oh, I mess up a lot too, but but I try to do that because I try not to waste my money. I mean, like
You're
I'm just like
picky.
basically have a low inventory budget, so it has to be like that money has to like flip into something good.
She's picky, and I've gotten a lot. I'm picky now, and I'm hard for, I get people with lots. I get people to reach out to me on Facebook and doing all these things, and they say, I don't know how many times I've heard that I've been collecting jewelry my whole life. I've got this big hoard for you, blah, blah, blah. And it's total crap. Or I can see some diamonds in the rough, but the majority, Molly, you cannot put your head on my spacer. You can't do it. Every time I set her down, she's on my
She's so
spacer.
cute.
And you've got to be able to say no. And that was probably the hardest thing for me is when, okay, well, this poor little old lady spent all day taking pictures for me. And now I gotta tell her no thank you. And it was really uncomfortable for me at first. And now it's like it's not uncomfortable because when I wasn't saying no, even though my gut told me I don't really want that, or when my gut only saw a few good things, or my favorite that I used to do is, well, I see 2 pieces in there that'll pay for the whole lot, so I can do this. I can make that work. That was stupid of me because I ended up with bunches of crap, and then I ended up breaking even part of the time, or I would like push things in my store that were like $20 because I wanted to be able to say I had another listable item. Otherwise, my cost of goods sounded really high. You know why? Because it was, right? But it was better if I shoved those, like 4-piece giraffes in there. Because Larry, it's funny you say that. I have listed a lot of giraffe lots. I do not know what it is about women and giraffes, but I've literally listed tons of giraffes and poodles. Damn poodles. And I lost a poodle. I have no idea what happened to stupid poodle brooch. I lose nothing. And I just listed it. Like it sold immediately, which I was like, oh my God, this ugly poodle pin, right? No idea what happened to it. Of course, it was to some lady that, like, when she bought it, was like, oh, this reminds me of my grandmother's dog, Can't find the dang thing. I have no idea. I sent her 6 other poodle pins because she wouldn't respond to my messages. I don't know. But I never lose anything. I don't know. There was a dog napping. I have no idea what happened.
I tried that once. I sent like 15 things for one thing that I couldn't find, and the lady did not appreciate it.
Yep, I know. I've had it both ways. I mean, I make mistakes too. I have no idea what happened to the stupid pin.
Yep.
But I refunded her and did that. So hopefully, I don't know. It was my mistake. I'm sorry. The best time I ever did was with that was exactly what Larry said. And I wrote a nice little note that said, Plushing at 50% off anything in my store. I'm very sorry, blah, blah, blah. And she took a picture of the notes and put, this is, I ordered this and this is what I got, and put it in my feedback. So that was a good lesson for me.
Same here. Had somebody put the note in there. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yep. And I was like, I was trying to be nice, but yeah, yep, nope. She put it in my feedback. So I was like, oh crap. So, you know, it happens. It just does. But I don't know. I don't know what happened to the stupid thing. It probably got, if I had to guess, I'd say that bag. It was really little. The guess is it got stuck to another bag. I don't really know. Nicole.
Thanks. What do you think about, so when you always talk about like, we have to have a plan to get rid of the stuff that we wind up with.
Yeah.
What do you think about using our customers to implement that plan, like putting in a free little brooch or a free little,
I hate people that do that.
Oh.
I don't want your crap. Why do I want your crap?
well, obviously the junk goes in the junk pile, but what if it's like an item that's wearable but it's not worth it to list it on its own, and we don't really have a lot.
It annoys the hell out of me when I get the whole, here's a free gift. I don't want your damn free gift. Like it just drives.
yeah.
Don't
No,
you hate that? Ugh, no,
Really?
don't be one of those people.
okay, all right.
It makes
Never
me think
mind.
you're trying to hide something in your lot, like you screwed up on like the actual what I actually bought kind of thing, and then you're trying to like make me like not see it with a free gift or I don't know.
And if they don't like your free gift, but they loved what you actually sent that they ordered, it influences their feedback.
Really? Okay, bad idea. Never mind.
Yeah, I hate that.
No, I
Okay.
thought of that too, but then I actually got the free gift as like a customer. I was like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah,
Okay.
not a good look.
All right. Just a thought.
Yeah, just get rid of it. Once you get to the point where you're not trying to nickel and dime everything, plus it will make you more disciplined with your sourcing, because it'll
Mhm.
make you less like, if you know I'm literally going to, this is just waste, you won't want any of the waste anymore. And it's
I just wish I could find a
freeing.
happy medium. Like it's either they charge way too much, it's out of my price range, but it's all bangers, but I can't even touch it because they're asking retail, or there's a few in a big lot of, not
And you did this
necessarily.
part-time, right? You're part-time.
Yeah, for now. Eventually I would like it to be full-time. But yeah, it's part-time right now.
When you're full-time, I would say
Yeah.
no less than 10 to 15 hours a week. You got to be like hitting it hard on sourcing, unless you have your own honey hole somewhere that's amazing and whatever. People do have those. I don't have those. So at least 10 to 15 hours a week you're going to spend sourcing,
Okay.
hardcore sourcing. And some weeks you're going to have nothing. If you're really strict on your metrics, there's weeks I spend that many hours and I buy nothing.
Wow.
I come up with zeros. It's the way it is.
Okay.
That's how it works. Meg says it's okay to say some things are just not for me because yep. Yeah, I find I've been at places with amazing deal, beautiful jewelry, but I'm not going to overspend, if it doesn't make sense to me. I leave it there. It used to bother me, and I think sometimes I pay up just because I didn't want to like leave it behind because it was so good, but that didn't usually work out for me. Anything that I feel strongly about with sourcing, it all stems from mistakes I've made repeatedly. And I think I had this discussion with Meg, was for a while when I was like trying to be the like really good jewelry, sourcer picker, just picking just the really great. And I told Meg, I'm like, but my bank account wasn't going up like it used to. Right. And so if our bank accounts aren't going in the right direction all the time, then it's not good, no matter what we're telling ourselves. Right. So that's why we do this. There's none of us that come in here that do it just to, because it's so fun and we don't care if we don't make more money, or I would say, well, of course my bank account went down. I just had a good buy. Right. That's what I would tell myself. But businesses, yes, their cash flow fluctuates, but they don't sit and go, okay, well, we're super down. We don't want anybody to look at our books today because we just had a good buy. Like they're supposed to be even and going up. And so I take that number that I gauge myself on after I take my weekly draw, because I should be able to pay my business bills and my personal bills, which is a set amount a week I allot for both, and still have that leftover number be going in the right direction, or I didn't make any money. Right? I didn't make any money. And if it's not going the right direction, I have to stop and go, why is it not going up? And if every week you're making an excuse like, well, it's garage sale season. Well, I had a big buy. Well, yeah, you're probably just not making any money. You're not making enough money, right? If you figure out how many items I list a week, you take it times my cost of goods sold, it's a scary number. You know, I'm listing 200 and some, you know, I keep like 225, whatever, a week. You take that times 4 or whatever, you're looking at about $1,000 a week in inventory. I give myself $1,000 a week. Big number, right? And I think sometimes we don't always look at that number of, let's say you're even listing 20 items a day. Let's say your buy cost is $5 for even, right? That means every single day, the first, you know, 100 and some dollars that you make, you didn't really make because that was your cost of goods for the day. So the first 100 and some dollars you're netting every day goes right to your inventory. It doesn't even exist. So when I coach people and they're like, no, I'm doing fine, you know, I have $200 deposit every day usually, da 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 da, and I'm like, but you list 25 items a day and you're got $5 buy cost, so you made $75, and then you've got packing supplies, you've got other bills. There's no money left. So it's got to work or it doesn't work. And that was when my reality was is like, this isn't really working. It wasn't really working. I thought it was working because like, well, I have these couple $100, $200, $300 deposits in my account every day, right? But then I took off my cost of goods sold and my shipping supplies and any other business expense. What was left? Not much. And I'd have a good week once in a while or whatever, but it just was a real reality check when I figured out that number that it costs to support my inventory every day. And that inventory bill comes every single day, whether I make any money that day or not. You know, that, you know, whatever I'm spending that day on inventory, if I list those 25 items a day, that bill comes whether I make that money that day or not. So some days I wake up the next day and I'm in the hole. I mean, that can happen if you don't get the sales. That means you're negative, and I keep a rolling total. So if I'm negative one day, well, that affects the next day, and it affects the next day because you know why? Because that's how business works. It's how reality with numbers works. And that's the accountant in me. Like I'm very realist like that, but I told myself lies for too long, and I could have been making a lot more money. And it was my fault. And it's I needed to spend more time sourcing instead of whining. You know, I live in the middle of Iowa. I don't have things right here. You know, high bids going too high. There's nothing I can do. So then I got to buy this crap. You know, I was doing all these things, guys. I've done that. I've been there. I've done it. And I wasn't making any money. So I do this for money. I don't do it because I like it. So it wasn't working. And even now, like, I mean, I throw up some good numbers, but I mean, my inventory costs are high. They just are. So I think some people have higher inventory costs than what they tell themselves too. And if we're overbuying, then that gets even worse. So you can say, well, I list 10 a day at $5. So I'm only really doing like $50 a day, but then they're buying huge amounts. And, you know, I mean, then you're overbuying, you're just chipping into that. I think of that every time I buy something extra that I don't need, it's just chipping that bottom dollar away. It's like a little axe, just chipping it away. So that's my spiel for the day. I've been there, done it. That's why I can say all this. And I didn't try hard enough. When I started trying, you know, the amazing thing, guys, when I started going out there and I was trying harder, great things happened to me, right? I wasn't putting myself out there. Let me stop this and we'll go right into the jewelry call.